everybody, it's Doug here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the continued episodes of my studio adventure where I'm going to be building out my new personal office and gaming studio in my backyard using a studio shed that we acquired through auction online. If you want to know more about this, please go back to the previous episodes because in this episode, the building has been delivered and put on to the lot, and we've done the leveling and the what we see is a gravel pad road-based foundation. Now we're going to start talking about what's going to happen with the interior. So originally I had audio in this, but there was so much background noise and echo, I decided just to cut the audio out and talk to you directly. And what I'm looking at here is the first glimpse. Now I showed a little bit of it in the previous episode, but just the first glimpse of the unfinished building and start talking about what we're going to be doing. For example, I start talking about how we're going to cover those vents, that little vent up there, and drop the ceiling. That's what's going to take place there. It won't be dropped flat. It's going to be arched, which is going to be nicer looking. Very cool. But also on the walls, we're going to be using, of course, insulation and sheetrock to fill in all of those spaces, and that's why I'm kind of panning around looking at that. So it'll be completely covered over to look like the interior of a house when it is done. So just to be clear, I'm not going to be actually doing most of this work myself. I'm not skilled enough in this type of construction. I didn't want to ruin anything, so most of the work will be done by somebody that we've hired to help us do this. But when you're looking up there, what I'm showing is the ceiling joints, and we're going to have to seal all that and then put some support beams up there. And then on the walls, right where you're looking in that area, we're going to be doing some work there, some different kind of work there, which I'll show later. And but ultimately, it's just going to be sheetrock painted. We decided not to paint with texture, which may have been a mistake. We'll talk about that later. And also, I want to talk about leveling of the building and what we did there. Because in hindsight, I wish we had done more to make sure the building was exquisitely leveled. When we did the pad, we took advice of some people and did it the way they suggested, and it still ended up just slightly off, and that really had an impact on this build out. But we'll talk about that more in future episodes. Again, what I'm doing here is just showing you the unfinished interior and talking about how we're going to this is where my desk area is going to be on this side of the building. We're going to, again, finish out that ceiling where we have drop lights and that sort of thing. And to do this, we had to reinforce the ceiling more, so we put a number of beams still going across here. You see those beams that already exist. Imagine that we did that on every single joist and slant going across the entire ceiling. That will you'll see that again in a future episode. But we also covered up these skylights. I didn't want to do that at first, but in hindsight, it was a good move because the sun just beats down through there during the hottest parts of the day. So when you see that drop ceiling, you won't see that anymore. We're also going to sheetrock and finish off these doors. Now, eventually, these doors will be replaced. That one there, I'm not even going to open. I'm going to eventually seal it, and hopefully that'll look nice. Yeah, so all of these walls, when they're finished, like I said, we were going to go with a textured paint, and we didn't do that, and I think that may have been a mistake. We'll see that later, because what I was talking about here in the original video was how we're going to not have a textured ceiling, not have textured walls. Well, it'll be completely finished out like a room inside your building in your home, you know, and you normally texture those things out and show those. And on the floor, we found a awesome one of those slotted wood laminate floors that we're going to put in there. We have a moisture pad that's going to go down on there. And there were some challenges with the floor too. We're also going to be doing some baseboarding so it looks finished. And right along here, that part of the door right there is where some of those challenges take place actually as we do the floor. Now, we didn't reinforce the floor any further. We didn't think we needed to. There's plenty of reinforcement under the shed, but we did want to do the floor in such a way that it was finished. And when you see the end product, you'll really like it. Like I said, I'm talking about this now, but we're already way ahead of this project. I'm just getting to the filming and editing, so I'm talking about these things. Yeah, and so when we finish off the walls, I mean, obviously it's going to look better when there's artwork and that sort of thing on the walls as well. And the thing that I was talking about with the foundation and making sure it was level is we did find that when you stepped on one side or the other too heavily, it would wobble a bit, and that was causing us to have cracks in the sheetrock, which we'll talk about later. But when we were doing that, we had to level it off quickly before it got worse. So we did that. It was actually a bit painful. We had to get jacks and things like that to lift it up just a little bit more. And we finished off all those windows and everything as well, so they're finished out. We're going to do something more with those. We'll talk about that in the future videos as well. And then, so at this stage of the game, we're just looking at some video. I'm just really showing you what the interior looks like, because the next part of this is going to be really, really important, and that is going to be part of what I based the title of this episode on. Because we, in this episode, we do take the next step, which was a very important step and had to be the first thing that occurred prior to us actually finishing out any of the interior on the side. So you can see I'm starting to walk outside now and head toward the back part of the shed and talk about, I start talking about the decking, but I'm going to talk about that later. So we are going to build a deck around this side of the structure. It'll be a longer deck to go with an above ground pool, which we're going to do in the future when we build up some resources again. But the deck will wrap around here and we'll have like an overhang or maybe a trellis top on it or something like that, so we could sit and enjoy some shade right outside my office. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool. Also want to replace those where they had some extra hinges there. We're gonna work on what we want to do with that in that spot right there. And basically, yeah, go back inside just a little bit, but I want to take you outside. So we're going to pause here. I'm going to take you out to the back part of the building. But before we do that, while we were doing the tour of the building, this beautiful piece of equipment arrived, which is basically for digging trenches. I highly recommend doing something like this instead of trying to do it with a shovel, because it was when you have to build dig a rather long trench. This device took hours, minutes instead of hours to actually dig that. And what I'm showing here is just where the trench started. And you can't really see it. I thought it was more clear to me in the picture, but there's all these markings in there, because one thing that you have to do is you have to have the city come out and mark your lines. And so we had marked this area out and used some folks from the city to come out and mark the gas lines and everything else, so we didn't hit any other electrical or appliance lines that were in the ground. So we did do that, and then we dug the heck out of the trench and we laid PVC down. Now this was with the work of an electrician, because this is coming from our main panel box and running underneath the ground a couple of feet to the where we're going to place the box on the shed, which I'll show you that toward the end of the video. That was probably a good 40-foot trench, and so if we had just paid somebody to come out and do that, you can imagine maybe it's 30 feet, but it was pretty long. If we had paid for that completely, that would have been pretty expensive, and electrical's already very expensive. So anyway, you can see the pipe going there where we ran the electrical to. It's PVC conduit. It's real simple. And again, here's another view of it as it leads up to the back of the studio shed, running along the backside there, and with the piping going in, the PVC going in to run the electrical. And you can see it was rather long and it was rather deep and straight. So having that tool, little tractor that I showed you to dig it up, was really useful. And by the way, my dog's still really upset with me because she does not yet have her yard available to her at this time. And here's one final shot of that going across the piping, going across the yard, getting ready to be buried. It was buried shortly after that, which led to the box panel on the back of the shed, which quite simply ends up looking just like this. So it goes up, runs up the back of the shed and to the post up on top. And that's what it looked like after it was buried. Now from there, and in this final clip of the shed, we're going to move on to the interior. I'm going to show you where it came in through the wall from the electrical box, and where that panel, those two right there. Now this was done to code, right? So you have to have a plug every so many feet and so high off the ground, so you can see where all the plugs were put in. There's quite a few around the room, more than enough to do the things I need to do. You also saw a plug up higher on the other wall. That is where the air conditioning is going to go. You can see it right there, and then you can see that there's going to be a switch box right there. That's for the inside and outside lighting that we're going to do. So that's pretty exciting, and you can see also up there the wires hanging down for the recessed lighting that will be in the building as well. And so that means that for this episode, we are about done. So I'm going to wrap it up here. That just it gives you an idea of the progress, how it's coming along now. Like I said, I'm actually quite a bit farther ahead than this at this stage, but I'm just taking it in chunks because I had to do the editing and narrating and put the clips together for you on this. So we're going to edit there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I hope you're enjoying this little video adventure from a novice. Like, I am not a professional in this in any way, so the stuff I'm sharing with you is really from a novice perspective and might help you in the future. If you decide to do something like this yourself, you'll see the progress of it. It's pretty amazing how it turned out, and I can't wait to show it to you. So I'll talk to you in the next episode of this. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for being a part of this journey. I appreciate it. Talk to you soon.